Welcome to Living in the Go. Today I want to talk to you about the real cost of having kids. And I know anybody can have a baby, that's not the question. But sometimes you need to really think it through and have a plan because people don't plan for their families anymore. It's like haphazard. And if you want to have a great life for your family and for your children, you need to really factor in what it actually costs to have kids. So let's get into that conversation. So let's talk about the basics. When you have children, there's food for them, there's shelter, there's supplies, childcare, clothes, pre-college education, college, time, the basics for food. When they're little, if you aren't breastfeeding them, then they need formula. That could be very, very costly, very, very expensive. Then, of course, they're eating baby food. Some people make it themselves to make sure they're getting pure food, whatever. But food costs. And as children get older, their needs only increase in terms of how much they eat. When my sons were teenagers, my goodness, they would eat me out of house and home, no lie. I'd open up the refrigerator. I had just bought food 2 days before that, and everything was gone. So I was constantly at the store filling those supplies, making sure they had enough food to eat because they're growing and they need food. The other thing is your shelter. So before children, you might be in a one-bedroom apartment and everything is great. And even when the baby is born, they could be in a little crib or a little bassinet. But then they're going to need their own space. And the one bedroom won't do it. So then you think, okay, I need bigger shelter. I need a two-bedroom. If not an apartment, maybe a house, I need a yard for them. So shelter can be extremely expensive. Supplies for them. A lot of things that they need, baby gear, they need the car seat, they need the stroller, the baby bouncer. There's so many things that they need, and those things are not cheap. You hope that you have a great baby shower to get some of the supplies, but then kids grow out of things, and even the baby seat, they eventually have to get another one because they grow out of that. So supplies for children certainly is expensive and things you need to think about. Childcare, if you're working and you want to go back to work, you want to make sure that you have great child care so that you can feel secure in where you place your child when you're at work so you don't have to worry. Child care is not cheap. Sometimes I've heard people say that their whole paycheck goes to paying for child care. So it's like, why am I working? That's a good question. Clothes, they grow constantly. Their feet grow. Everything grows. And when they hit puberty, even more so. So the clothes are extremely expensive because you're constantly replacing them. You're replenishing that little wardrobe. Pre-college, people think the school is free. And even if they're in a public school, there are school supplies they're going to need. There the test preps that you have to pay for sometimes. There's a cost to going to school. Those are things you need to factor into your budget. And then certainly college. They can go to a junior college or a state school, which will be less costly. But college is expensive, and they could take on the burden of doing loans, but you want to help as much as you can. So that's something to consider. And then the last, but certainly not least, is time. The time that you spend in terms of raising your children. Your life is not your own. Once you have a baby, your life takes on a whole different perspective. You need to make sure that that child is well taken care of. So if you were used to going out to dinner, wonderful trips, to the parties, everything else, that's on hold once you have children because your mission then is to secure them to make sure that they have everything they need to be healthy, to thrive, all of those things. And so that's your job and that's where your time goes. Something to consider when you're planning for children as opposed to just having children. As always, I do have my beliefs and I want to share those with you right now. So what I said up front, plan for your family. So people sometimes think, I want a baby, that would be great. Or they might think, I want to have a baby to make sure my relationship stays together. Or I want to have a baby because that will ensure that this person stays with me. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Plan for your family. Ideally, it would be in two-parent household. You plan how many children you're going to have, how far apart they're going to be spread. You plan the money that you're going to need and have in place. All those things come into play, so you need to plan. You want to be in a committed relationship. I'm not saying you have to be married, certainly not. but you want to make sure that the person you decide to have a family with is committed to you and that relationship and that family, that they're going to be there for the long haul. Don't give in to pressure from family members or anybody else who tells you, well, you need to have a baby, you're not getting any younger or whatever. They're not the ones that's going to have to provide for this child and raise this child and come up with the financial means to make sure this child is okay. So don't give in to any kind of pressure. Raising kids is not easy. I've raised two, and I'll tell you, it is not an easy process. If you do it well, great, but it's not easy. And there's no license for it. Anybody can have a child. And we see it happening quite often. When you look now in terms of foster care, how many children are in foster care because their parents were not equipped to raise them well. So something to consider. You need a support system. You can have a family, and this can be overwhelming sometimes. You might just need a break. You want to have someone that you can talk to who's maybe had children, who can give you some suggestions, some pointers. Sometimes just to give you that peace of mind to know that you're not alone in this. So you need a support system. And you never stop worrying about your children, ever, ever, ever. My children have been out of my house 20 years. I never stopped thinking about them and worrying, maybe not worrying, but certainly wondering if they're okay for their well-being, because as a parent, until the day I die, that's going to be happening for me. You also don't want to compare your children to other people's kids. Sometimes people lie. People say, oh, my child is the best ever, the greatest, and then you feel bad about yours because they're struggling a little bit. They could be lying. Don't compare, and especially don't compare your children against their other siblings. People are unique. Therefore, children are unique. They have different things that they do at different paces of life. Never compare. Just enjoy them in the moment that they're in. Encourage them, support them, and know that everything is going to be okay. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you like this presentation, hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, I would encourage you to do that today, because we want to bring you on board to this community, because we are spreading the message in terms of helping people be financially more savvy and secure. Have a great day.